When we were about 20, my friends and I were really big into doing scary trips to haunted roads and things of that nature. This one is about Clinton Road, deemed the most haunted road in America. So scary, they even made a movie about it. This story takes place before the movie was even a thought. I was with a group of friends. 3 of us were really close, while the other 2 would tag along every now and then. Myself and my 2 friends who I was closest with were all big guys, with the smallest of us standing about 6'4" and 230 pounds, so we were never really scared to do any of these things, as we looked like a pretty intimidating group of guys if we ever ran into any trouble. It was a Friday night, and I had to work late, but my other friends decided to go visit this road without me. The next day, they told me about their experience. Most of what they told me about that night sounded like the typical overhyped, adrenaline-fueled scare, but one thing stuck out. They told me that while they were there, they received texts from an unknown number asking, "Why are you on Clinton Road?" And the text even described what my friends were doing and wearing. They showed me the text, but I figured they were faking it, trying to make it sound scary, knowing I'd be mad that I missed out. They also explained to me a legend that a child died in the water under the bridge on the road, and that if you throw change into the water, a ghost boy would return the change to you. On top of that, there's a ridiculously sharp bend in the road there called Dead Man's Curve, that even if you're doing a modest 30 miles per hour, you could easily crash and tumble off the cliff. It's also said that a ghost truck will chase you throughout the road and try to get you to crash. I called total BS. I then convinced them that we should go there that night since I was off work. That night would not disappoint. We get there, and immediately I see that the road is in the middle of the woods. There are ritualistic signs everywhere. I knew that this was not a typical road. As we made our way down the road, we came up to the bridge and parked. As soon as we got out of the car, I checked everyone's pockets so they wouldn't be trying to pull anything slick, like dropping change in the road when I wasn't looking. There were a total of 5 quarters, 1 for each of us. We all tossed them in the water over the bridge. About 5 minutes go by in total silence. I decided to break the silence by stating, "Told you, BS." We then turned to walk back to the car. We get about 10 feet away and heard the tiny sound of metal behind us. It sounded like loose change hitting the ground. We go back to the bridge, and there are 5 quarters laying directly in between the 2 yellow lines in the middle of the road. Thinking it was one of the other 4 people there messing with me, I came prepared. I then signed one of the quarters with my initials. We all threw our quarters back in the water. About 5 more minutes go by, and again I proclaim, "See, BS. It was one of you guys trying to mess with us." We then proceeded to walk back to the car. We got about 10 feet away when we heard again the sound of loose change hitting the concrete. We turned back around and went to see what it was. Sure enough, there were 5 quarters laying in the road, with one of them having my initials in my handwriting. We all went nuts and ran back to the car. After getting back into the car, we decided to keep going to see what else the road has to offer. About 10 minutes went by, and a few of us had to go pee really badly, so we pulled up to this random castle-looking building. It was no bigger than a small house, but you could tell it was extremely old. We decided to stop there because there was a little spot in the road to let a car pull over. We all got out to go. I went to my immediate left and do my business. After I'm done, I notice my friend is walking towards the castle, almost in a trance-like state. We yelled his name to come back, but he kept walking. We all ran up and grabbed him and shook him out of it. After questioning why the hell he'd be walking up there alone, he stated that he was following me, and that I had waved him to come here without saying a thing to him. The problem with that was that the fact that the entire group was actually behind him. Our group had little signs and signals, and I wouldn't just wave him over without saying something. so I'm 100% convinced that he saw a doppelganger leading him into trouble. The fear level is definitely higher now, so we decided to leave. Like I stated earlier, it's an extremely dark road in the woods, so you can't see much. You have to pass Dead Man's Curve twice, once on the way in, once on the way out. We're probably 4 miles away from the curve when we see headlights coming up behind us. We didn't think much of it, as we thought it was just some other kids our age trying to do what we were doing. About a minute goes by after us talking about random stuff trying to ease the mood, and we noticed the headlights were directly behind us. The headlights looked super old, and you can tell it was a truck because of how high up the lights were off the ground. The thing was, we didn't see a truck, just the lights, because the lights were so close and so bright. Getting more creeped out, we told the driver to speed up and try to get this crazy driver off of our tail, but he was sticking right on us. We were going as fast as we could go down straightaways and around tight corners, but we couldn't shake him. None of this added up though. We were driving in a tuned up sports car, and this appeared to be an old truck. There was no way that any truck should have been able to keep up with us for more than 30 seconds, or take the turns we were taking at the speeds we were going. But this thing was on us for what seemed to be miles. Finally, about a half a mile away from Dead Man's Curve, the lights just vanished. It wasn't like they turned off on a side road, they just cut off. Just after we passed Dead Man's Curve, we pulled over in a densely forested spot so we could find our way back to the main road because we didn't have any service in the area. We were all talking very softly. If something was going to happen, we wanted to make sure we could hear it. 2 minutes went by and we finally got service to one of our phones. One of the guys got directions, so we were in the clear to leave. Right before the driver put the car in drive, we heard this deafening screech. It sounded like a woman's scream, but it was so loud, we figured it had to be no more than 20 to 30 feet away from us. I know this is going to sound crazy, and if it didn't happen to me, I would never believe it. We turned to look, and it was almost like a scene right out of a movie. A black-haired figure in a white dress was standing there, but next to that was a clown hanging upside down from a tree, swinging back and forth, smiling at us, moving its head in any direction we moved. The clown was an old school type of clown with the white ruffled collar that goes around the neck. Now this totally could have been a prank, but to have set that prank up, you would have to have both immense patience for someone to come to that exact spot or balls of steel to be doing that in the woods, in the middle of nowhere, on a haunted road. We weren't sticking around to find out. I don't think I've ever been in a car that moved as fast as ours after that sighting. We then raced for the main road and headed back. As we made our way home, we did our research and found out about the legends of the ghost truck, Dead Man's Curve, and all the other things we encountered there. It was such a rush. By the time we got home, it was probably 2:30 in the morning, and we had already forgotten a lot of the scared feelings we actually had back on the road. So when we all got back to our cars, we decided that we would do it again the next day to see who really had the balls to do it again. I lived 15 minutes away from where we parked. On the way home, I passed by an old rundown church. Out front was a letter sign that churches usually put inspirational verses or announcements on. The board stated, "You're going to need Jesus on Sunday," which was weird because that church never used their sign for anything. It never had any verses or announcements on it. Ever. About a minute after passing that church, my radio cut out and started playing Sunday, Bloody Sunday by U2. We were set to go back on Sunday night. I took all that as a sign, and I made a call to the group saying we're not going back. It's been about 7 years, and I refuse to go there ever again, but that night made me believe.